Hello and welcome to this edition of Tour Confidential on Golf.com. I'm Jessica Marksbury, joined today in our Lower Manhattan studio by Golf Live host Ryan Aselta and Golf.com's Marika Washington. The PGA Tour season has been in full swing since October, but since we're approaching the end of the calendar year, it feels appropriate to reflect on the season that was. So Ryan, let me start with you. Give me a highlight from 2016.
Tough to choose from, Jess. I was thinking about it. A lot of great moments in 2016, but the highlight for me had to have been the 2016 Open Championship. The Sunday finish between Henrik Stenson and Phil Mickelson was the best of what golf is all about, really. Head-to-head, mano-a-mano. You have Phil shooting a 65 on Sunday and coming up short, looking for that major that's eluded him the last 3 or 4 years. And Henrik Stenson finally, after 7 top fives in majors, he wins with a historic 63 on Sunday. But overall, the entire Open Championship, remember back to Thursday of that tournament when Phil lipped out his putt on the 18th hole for a 62. I was just enthralled with it. I couldn't step away from it, and that was my highlight for 2016.
It's a great pick. The Open was particularly awesome this year, I have to say. What do you think, Marika?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I'm not going to steal your thunder and jump onto that, but I think it was a nice surprise that it was a highlight for me was the Olympics, golf's return to the Olympics. As someone who enjoys sports and likes watching all sorts of sports year round, and particularly looks forward to the Olympics every 4 years, we had an extra, stake in the game by seeing golf come back. And I think watching Henrik Stenson and Justin Rose battle down the stretch all the way to 18 on the course in Rio and seeing all of those fans out there. And then similarly the next week watching, Inbee Park absolutely ran away with it with the gold medal, but watching Shan Shan Feng and Lydia Ko battle out for silver, those women got an absolute gift to have the whole world watching them the way that people watch the Olympics. And I think that everybody who was skeptical at the beginning of the year on golf's Olympic return had a really nice surprise, and that was definitely a highlight for me.
I have to say, I absolutely loved the underdog stories that we got to see this year. Vaughn Taylor winning at Pebble Beach, Jim Herman at the Shell Houston Open, and Billy Hurley III at the Quicken Loans. I mean, these are really great players who finally had that breakthrough moment, getting that PGA Tour win. So meaningful for those guys.
Well, and if we're on the topic of first-time winners and underdog stories, the fact that we had 4 first-time major winners this year was also a really good story. Dustin Johnson had to battle for that, and that was a great story at the end. And Danny Willett, while not a great story for Jordan Spieth on the losing end of that, it was a very good year. I think a lot of good things to choose from.
I'm glad you brought that up, Marika, because of course, with all of the positive storylines to reflect upon, we got to go a little negative, right? We got to have some low lights, and I'm going to pick up on that one and say, for me, it had to be Jordan Spieth's failure to get that second green jacket. We thought he had it in the bag. It was so dramatic down the final stretch, and as happy as we are for Danny Willett to get it done, I think we were all hoping for a Jordan Spieth victory, and it kind of set the tone for him, Ryan, throughout the rest of the major season, and it was a little disappointing for Jordan.
Yeah, that was my low light too. I remember seeing Jordan on the 9th green. I was standing there, seeing him make his 4th straight birdie on Sunday and walking away a 5-shot lead, and I said, that's it. He's going back to back. And then just the shock of seeing what happened there on 10, 11, and of course the 7 on 12. Yeah, that was the low light because everyone was really rooting for Jordan. He was turning into golf's darling, 22 years old, unexpected, tragic, everything you don't want to see happen to a champion. The way he handled it afterwards was impressive, so that's not much of a low light. But yeah, I thought Jordan was going back to back. That was certainly my low light this year too.
Yeah, for me, I think one of the frustrating things about watching golf this year was a couple of the different rule scenarios that we had to endure. Namely, of course, Dustin Johnson at the U.S. Open, but even the U.S. Women's Open with Brittany Lang and Anna Nordqvist going into the stretch. There was just a couple of things that made you as a golf fan go, why? Because you were trying so hard and we have all these great things going on in golf. 4 new major winners, the Olympics, all these things we've talked about. And then you have these unfortunate gaffes that sort of kept popping up. It seems like the USGA and the R&A have taken steps to make that better for 2017, but unfortunately for me, that stuck.
And the problem with that too is when a high-profile event like the U.S. Open, the world of golf is hoping to draw in more fans, the casual golf fan to become more interested. And unfortunately, things like that with Dustin Johnson, you saw it on social media, people just killing the game of golf, killing the USGA because of the rules. And that certainly doesn't help grow the game, which was something we've talked a ton about this year as well.
Well, and the good news is the rule change has been made, going to go into effect, so at least there is a silver lining there. Ryan and Marika, thank you so much for your time and insight, and thank you all for joining us on this edition of Tour Confidential on Golf.com. We'll see you right back here next week.